An anti-aircraft searchlight battery furnishes the complete system for the detection, location, and illumination of aerial targets. The battery is equipped with means for discovering hostile aircraft during darkness and illuminating them sufficiently to enable gun batteries to fire effectively. The equipment is organized into 15 searchlight sections, each consisting of one searchlight. This is a 60-inch high-intensity searchlight, model 1941. One control station, model 1941. This is a device that enables the searchlight to be controlled from a distance and to be directed at the point in the sky indicated by the sound locator as the target's position. One sound locator M2. This is a device whose function is to locate the target by means of sound. An acoustic corrector is built into the sound locator to determine and apply a correction for sound lag. One power plant, model 1941. This unit generates the power for the entire section. The necessary cables to transmit the power from the power plant to the various units of the section. Two searchlight trucks used to transport the equipment and personnel of the section. In each mobile section, the equipment is manned by the following details. The sound locator squad, consisting of the chief of section, a sergeant. Number 1, the azimuth listener. Number 2, the elevation listener. Number 3, the acoustic corrector operator. Number 4, the telephone operator. The searchlight squad, consisting of the searchlight commander, a corporal. Number 5, the azimuth controller at the control station. Number 6, the elevation controller at the control station. Number 7, the searchlight operator. Number 8, the power plant operator and chauffeur of truck number 2. Number 9, chauffeur of truck number 1. And number 10, a basic who has no specifically assigned duties. For road movements, the equipment and personnel of the searchlight section are loaded on the 2 trucks. The model 1941 trucks are special vehicles designed for searchlight equipment and personnel. They have special double cabs to accommodate the personnel of the searchlight section. Truck number 1 carries the searchlight, the control station, and the sound locator. The men ride in the designated seats as shown. Truck number 2 carries the rest of the equipment and personnel. The power plant and the yellow, blue, and red cables are carried in the main body of the truck. The men ride in the seats as shown. Here we see the searchlight battery en route to the area which is to be defended. The searchlight battery is used in conjunction with firing gun batteries in the defense of airfields, supply establishments, troop concentrations, and other important areas. In the normal case, each platoon is assigned to cover a sector of the defended area. Where the defended area is 1,000 yards or less in diameter, the searchlight defense will normally consist of an outer ring of pickup lights at a radius of 8,500 yards from the defended area and an inner ring of carry lights at a radius of 2,500 yards. The defense is capable of acting effectively against an attack from any direction. In moving forward to the location where it will be employed tactically, the battery divides as it approaches the general area in which it is to operate. After each platoon leaves the main column, it proceeds to the sector which it is to defend. In unfamiliar localities, it is advisable to use guides at road junctions to assure that the sections reach their proper positions. When the platoon arrives at its sector, it divides. Each searchlight section goes to its previously selected position. The searchlight position selected should be on or near a road good enough to permit use by the trucks in all kinds of weather. Fairly open so that light and locator can operate down to an elevation of plus 10 degrees. Away from main highways, railways, factories, and other sources of noise. On an elevation rather than in a depression, so that sound waves will not be distorted by surrounding hills before reaching the location. And at least 1 mile from the nearest gun battery. As the vehicles of the section reach the vicinity of the searchlight position, the chief of section commands, "Prepare for action." He indicates the locations for the sound locator, the control station, searchlight, power plant, and the parking area for the vehicles. The normal setup of the searchlight equipment is to have the power plant placed under acoustic concealment behind a wall, building, embankment, or other obstacle at a maximum distance from the sound locator. Utilizing the full length of the yellow cables, 200 feet on the model 1941 unit, the searchlight is placed toward the expected direction of enemy airplane approach and located so it will have an unobstructed field of illumination of 360 degrees in azimuth. Then, on the side of the searchlight opposite the power plant, and within the length of the blue cable, 900 feet on the model 1941 unit, the sound locator is set up. The 900 feet of blue cable consists of two 450-foot sections. If possible, they are set up along a little-used road nearest to and pointing in the direction of the target's expected approach. The control station is located off to the side of the searchlight, anywhere within the length of the red cable, 500 feet on the model 1941 unit. The posts of the members of the section in operating position are the chief of section and numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 at the sound locator, the searchlight commander and numbers 5 and 6 at the control station, number 7 at the light, number 8 at the power plant, number 9 with his truck, and number 10 wherever needed. En route to the power plant position, truck number 2 leaves number 4 near the sound locator position. Number 4 leaves the truck and proceeds to the end of the wire which has been laid by the communication section. In the event that communication has not yet reached his section, number 4 may assist in the unloading and setting up of the sound locator. He connects his telephone to the end of the wire and calls the platoon command post. If communication thereto is satisfactory, he reports to his chief of section, "Communication in order." Truck number 2 arrives at the power plant position. Number 10 removes the automatic rifle from the truck and places it in a location convenient to the power plant operating position. Under supervision of the searchlight commander, numbers 3, 6, 8, and 10 prepare to unload the power plant. The tailgate of the truck is lowered and the ramp hold-down devices are loosened. The ramps are placed in position and secured to the truck by means of the locking pins. The block and tackle is checked to be sure that the hook is securely fastened to the power plant. The hold-down devices are disconnected. The power plant is run off of the truck. The searchlight commander makes certain that the wheels go straight down the ramp. Normally, it will be necessary to start the power plant down the ramps by pushing on it from the rear. The power plant is placed in its operating position. It is always placed with the gasoline motor end away from the rest of the unit in order to decrease the amount of sound reaching the locator, the light, and the control station. The searchlight commander supervises the laying of all cables. Number 6 places the ends of the 2 yellow cables near the power plant. Truck number 2 starts laying the cables to the searchlight position. Number 3 pays out the 2 yellow cables. Number 6 walks along in rear of the truck, guiding the cables as they come off the reels. The chief of section conducts truck number 1 to the searchlight position and supervises the unloading and setting up of the searchlight. Numbers 1, 2, 5, and 9 assist number 7 in preparing the searchlight for unloading. The hold-down devices which secure the ramps in place in the truck are disconnected. The ramps are placed in position and secured to the truck by means of the locking pins. The hold-down turnbuckles are released. The position of the block and tackle is checked, making sure that the hook is securely fastened to the light. The searchlight is then lowered down the ramps. Number 7 makes certain that the front wheels go straight down the ramps. The crew stands clear to avoid injury in the event the light should break away. Numbers 1, 2, 5, and 9 assist number 7 in setting up the searchlight. The transportation lock is unpinned, and the transportation lock bar is lowered to its horizontal position and secured in place by means of the pin. The searchlight is then depressed to the horizontal position and the cover is removed. The searchlight is transported with the elevation clutch on hand position and with the elevation clamp free, so that when the transportation bar is released, the drum may be readily lowered to 0 elevation. The azimuth pin is removed. The searchlight is moved to see that it revolves freely. By means of its 4 leveling jacks, the light is then lifted off the ground and approximately leveled. The light is placed so that one level tube is parallel with the frame of the chassis and the other is at right angles to it. Using the leveling jacks, the light is leveled so that the bubbles are centered in their tubes. The light is then traversed 3,200 mils. The bubbles should remain centered. If they do not, use the jacks to bring them halfway back to center. Then again traverse the light 3,200 mils and adjust the jacks until the bubbles are centered. Numbers 1, 2, 5, and 9 enter truck number 1 preparatory to leaving for the control station position. The extended hand control is removed from the clamps in which it is carried. Number 7 obtains the extended hand control and places it near the light. It is provided to direct the searchlight manually in case the distant electric control fails. Number 7 remains at the light and connects the cables when they are delivered. It is important that no cable be connected until the entire cable is laid. Truck number 2 arrives at the searchlight position. Number 6 places the ends of the 2 yellow cables near the searchlight. He receives the end of the red cable from number 3 and places it near the light. Number 3 pays out the red cable as truck number 2 is driven slowly to the control station position. Number 6 walks along in the rear of the truck and guides the cable as it comes off the reel. Number 7 loosens the nuts that hold the receptacle covers on the searchlight. He then removes the covers from the ends of the yellow cables by loosening the wing nuts that secure them. He then connects the two yellow cables to their proper receptacles on the junction box of the searchlight. He then connects up the red cable. Truck number 1 arrives at the position selected for the control station. Numbers 1, 2, 5, and 9 begin to unload the subdivisions of the control station. They unload the tripod and set it in place within 500 feet of the searchlight. The control unit is then removed from the truck. The protective cap on the tripod is removed. The control unit is properly positioned with respect to the tripod turntable by means of a slot in its skirt, which fits a lug on the tripod. They make sure that the lug is in alignment with the slot. The control unit is slowly lowered in a plane parallel with the top of the tripod. Care is taken not to strike the control station on the contact plate of the tripod. When the control unit is seated, the clamp knobs are tightened so that they apply equal pressure to the tripod turntable. The binocular mount is removed from its box. The binoculars, night glasses, are removed from their carrying case in the binocular mount box. They are then placed in position at the top of the binocular mount. The open sight is removed from the binocular mount box. It is secured in place in its position at the top of the binoculars. The leveling jacks are adjusted until the level bubbles on the control station are centered. The level bubbles should remain centered throughout a complete traverse of the control station. After having removed the automatic rifle from the truck, number 5 places it near the control station. He remains at the control station to connect up the red cable when delivered and prepare the station for action. After the control station is set up, the chief of section and numbers 1, 2, and 9 leave in truck number 1 for the position selected for the sound locator. Truck number 2 arrives at the control station and delivers the red cable. Truck number 2 then returns to the searchlight position. Number 5 receives the end of the red cable and carries it to the control station. He removes the cover of the receptacle on the control station by loosening the nuts which hold it in place. He then connects the red cable to the control station, securing it by means of the wing nuts provided. Truck number 2 arrives at the searchlight. Number 3 removes the end of the blue cable from the truck and gives it to number 6, who places it near the searchlight. Number 3 pays out the blue cable as the truck is slowly driven toward the sound locator position. Number 6 guides the cable as it comes off the reel. Number 7 removes the cover on the blue receptacle and connects the blue cable to the searchlight. He remains at the searchlight and prepares it for action. He opens the cover over the lamp control mechanism and checks to see that the negative feed centralizer lever is in the automatic position. Truck number 1 arrives at the position selected for the sound locator. Supervised by the chief of section, numbers 1, 2, 9, and 10 begin to unload the 5 component parts of the sound locator. They unload the platform and place it in its selected position. By means of the leveling jacks, they level it approximately. The pedestal is unloaded and placed near the platform. Truck number 2 arrives at the sound locator position and delivers the blue cable. Number 3 remains at the sound locator. The searchlight commander and number 6 leave for the control station. After the sound locator has been completely unloaded, it is assembled. The pedestal is secured in its position on the platform by provided. The main assembly and corrector are removed. They secure the 2-horn assembly and bolt it to its place. They secure the 2-horn assembly and bolt it to its place on the main assembly. Markers on the hubs of the They secure the 2-horn assembly and bolt it to its place on the main assembly. Markers on the hubs of the horn arms show the location of the holes for the dowel pins. The canvas covers and caps are moved after the horns are assembled. As the canvas covers are provided with carrying straps, they are left on until assembling has been completed. This facilitates the handling of the horns. The covers also prevent any unnecessary damage. Number 3 removes the pantograph from its case in the main carrying case. He mounts it in its place on the corrector case. It is secured by the pantograph attaching stud knob. Number 1 recovers the plug from underneath the sound locator where it was dropped when the main assembly was mounted. By loosening the wing nuts, he removes the cover from the plug and connects it to the receptacle on the end of the blue cable. The joint is then attached to the underside of the platform by means of the clamp. It is secured in place in the clamp by tightening the wing nut. The covers of the receptacle and plug are then connected together. Numbers 1 and 2 level the locator by adjusting the leveling jacks until the level indicates that the platform is horizontal. All 4 jack pads must bear firmly against the ground. The level of the locator is checked by walking around the platform to detect any tendency to rock. If the platform does rock, the level bubbles must be brought to center. When the level bubbles remain centered for a complete traverse of the locator, it is leveled. The sound locator is then ready to be oriented. Under supervision of the Chief of Section, number 2 drives stakes indicating the direction of the advanced listening posts and the other lights. The arrangement of stakes enables the Chief of Section to point the locator in accordance with information received by phone from these points. After he has assisted in unloading and assembling the sound locator, on the road near the searchlight and awaits orders. When all cables have been laid, number 8 drives truck number 2 to a concealed position near the power plant. He secures his individual equipment from the truck and returns to the power plant position. There, he connects the yellow cables. Then he prepares the power plant for action. He raises the door to the instrument panel board and checks the fuel supply by means of the gauge. He raises the door to the motor and checks the oil supply by means of the bayonet gauge. He verifies that there is a proper amount of water in the radiator. All units are now ready for orienting and synchronizing. After the various elements of the searchlight unit have been set up and proper electrical connections made, the searchlight and sound locator must be oriented and synchronized in azimuth and elevation before going into action. There are two methods by which the section can be oriented in azimuth, namely by orienting on a well-defined distant point or by orienting the unit on itself. The easiest method of orientation in azimuth is to point the sound locator, the searchlight, and the control station by means of their sights at a celestial body, moon, sun, or stars, or at any well-defined distant object. To point the searchlight, disengage the azimuth pinion gear by placing the azimuth clutch handle in the direction indicated as out. Turn the searchlight in azimuth until it points at the celestial body or distant point, sighting by means of the orienting sight on the searchlight. Re-engage the azimuth clutch by pushing the clutch handle in the direction indicated as in. It is now necessary to start the power plant. Number 8 pulls the choke and throttle control slightly out, turns on the ignition switch, and presses the starter button. He adjusts the choke and throttle for smooth engine operation. Using the rheostat, he causes the voltmeter to read the proper voltage of approximately 105 volts. At the control station, number 5 turns the red DC switch on. At the searchlight, recheck the azimuth position, using the distant electric control to obtain an exact alignment on the distant point. To set the searchlight azimuth scale to 0, loosen the screw that holds the azimuth scale in place at the base of the searchlight and turn it until 0 on the scale is under the pointer index. Then tighten the screw. The searchlight is now oriented on a distant point. On the sound locator M2, set the target speed to 0 by means of the target airspeed setting knob. Set the parallax scale to 0. Loosen the azimuth hand wheel clamp knob. Then turn the sound locator by hand toward the distant point. Use the corrector sight and get the images of the pantograph pointer and the distant point to coincide on the cross lines of the mirror. Care must be taken not to disturb the correction handle thereafter until the control station is oriented in azimuth. Now take up on the azimuth clamp to hold the sound locator in this position. Loosen the screw that holds the sound locator azimuth scale in place. Set the azimuth scale to 0 by slipping the scale around until 0 is under the index. Then tighten the screw. Push down the declutching gear. Rotate the parallax cam until the arrow on top of the cam points directly at the searchlight. Then remesh the gearing. The searchlight and sound locator are now properly oriented in azimuth. With the power on, adjust the azimuth zero readers on the searchlight and control station to read zero, as they may or may not show a zero reading when the searchlight and sound locator are oriented. The azimuth zero readers are made to read zero at the searchlight. The cover on the azimuth data receiver at the base of the searchlight is removed, and the adjustment knob is turned until the zero readers read zero. The correct zero reading is obtained when the needle of the azimuth zero reader at the control station moves to the right when the zero reader hand wheel is rotated clockwise, and to the left when the hand wheel is rotated counterclockwise. To point the control station, hold the azimuth hand wheels from turning. By looking through the binoculars, slip the control station until it is directed at the distant point. With the searchlight, sound locator, and control station all pointed at the same distant point, the azimuth scales of the light and locator reading the same, the zero reader meters reading zero, the unit is in orientation in azimuth and has been synchronized. On the searchlight, disengage the azimuth pinion gear by placing the azimuth clutch handle in the direction indicated as out. Turn the searchlight in azimuth until it points at the pedestal of the sound locator. Sighting through the orienting sight. Re-engage the azimuth clutch by placing the clutch handle in the direction indicated as in. Start the power plant and adjust the voltage to approximately 105 volts. Then turn the red DC switch at the control station on. Loosen the screw that holds the searchlight azimuth scale in place at the base of the searchlight. Then slip the azimuth scale until 3200 mils is directly under the pointer index. Tighten the screw. Then, by using the distant electric control, swing the searchlight in azimuth to the zero position. In this way, the distant electric control system is used to electrically lock the searchlight in the position in which it has just been set. On the sound locator, set the target speed to zero by means of the target airspeed setting knob. Set the parallax scale to zero. Numbers 8 and 9 drive their trucks to the designated parking places. They hide their trucks from ground and air observation. Number 9 inspects the trucks to see that they are in proper operating condition for future use. He checks the supply of gasoline and oil. The oil gauge is reached by opening a small door in the right section of the floorboard on the model 1941 truck. He inspects the trucks for any malfunctioning of equipment. He verifies that the supply of water is correct. Supervised by the chief of section, numbers 1 and 2 examine the locator, verifying its level by walking around the platform. They test the functioning of the elevating and traversing apparatus. At this point, assisted by number 3 and supervised by the chief of section, they orient the locator. The procedure of orientation is shown in another training film. They test their helmets for comfort and fit, making sure they are connected properly. There are 2 buttons on the sound locator. The button located on the corrector drive assembly is for the purpose of transmitting prearranged signals from the sound locator to the control station. The button located on the main assembly to the right of the elevation hand wheel is for the purpose of decreasing the alternating current hum in the data transmission system. Number 3 examines the acoustic corrector. The parallax correction is obtained from the graph located on the acoustic corrector. This correction is a function of the baseline length, distance between searchlight and sound locator, and the estimated pickup slant range. For example, with a baseline length of 900 feet and an estimated pickup slant range of 18,000 feet, the correction would be 4. The correction thus obtained is set on the parallax scale by number 3. Number 7 examines the searchlight. He sees that all plugs are properly connected to their sockets and that the searchlight is leveled. He makes certain that the light is properly connected for distant electric control. Entering the light through the door on the side away from the thermostat, he checks to see that the spare positive and negative carbons are on hand in the brackets in which they are carried, and that new or nearly new carbons are in place in the lamp mechanism. In many situations, it would be unwise to strike an arc unless the front of the lamp were covered. Any material, such as heavy tarpaulin, may be used for this purpose. After the light is covered, he strikes the arc. He observes the voltmeter, the ammeter, and the ground glass finder to see that the arc is functioning normally. He extinguishes the arc as soon as possible. The cover is removed immediately and placed near the light for any future use. Number 7 then verifies that the extended hand control is close to the light and ready for action. The extended hand control, used to direct the searchlight manually, is tested in the following manner. Number 7 places the azimuth clutch handle in the out position. He then places the elevation clutch lever in the hand position to remove the searchlight from distant electric control. He loosens the screw clamp on the extended hand control socket. Supervised by the searchlight commander, he places the extended hand control into the socket. It is turned slightly to be sure that it engages properly. Then he tightens the clamp. The searchlight commander directs the light from the end of the extended hand control. The light is elevated and depressed by turning the wheel on the end of the hand control. It is directed in azimuth by pushing on the hand control. The extended hand control is then removed and placed near the light. The azimuth clutch handle is placed in the direction indicated as in. The elevation clutch is placed in distant electric control position. At this point, under supervision of the searchlight commander, he orients the light with the locator and control station and synchronizes the zero reader system. Supervised by the searchlight commander, numbers 5 and 6 together examine the control station. They test the functioning of the distant electric control by elevating and traversing the light from the control station. They verify that movement of the azimuth and elevation hand wheels produce movement of the zero reader needles in their proper directions, to the right when the hand wheels are rotated clockwise, and to the left when the hand wheels are rotated counterclockwise. Number 5 examines the automatic rifle to see that it is in operating condition and that a proper supply of 60 rounds of ammunition is on hand. The searchlight commander uses a signal button on the control station to transmit commands by prearranged signals between the control station and the searchlight. The searchlight commander inspects the power plant to see that it is operating properly. He inspects the searchlight, checking to see that the instruments and other working parts of the light are ready for operation. He pays particular attention to the inspection of the control station. He verifies its level and checks the elevating and traversing hand wheels. At this point, he supervises the orienting and synchronizing of the searchlight and control station. When he has checked everything and found his section correct, he reports to the chief of section, searchlight and control station in order. After this report, and when his equipment is found correct and orientation completed, the chief of section commands rest. He shares watches with the searchlight commander so that one man is definitely in command at all times. He arranges the men in reliefs for the various necessary posts by detailing one listener and one telephone operator to remain on the alert. He arranges for a relief of men on duty at hourly and half-hourly intervals. Numbers 9 and 10 perform the duties assigned them by the chief of section. They may be used as vehicle guards at the trucks or as reliefs for other men of the section. Number 5, who shares with number 6 the relief of the telephone operator, carries the automatic rifle to the telephone position. Number 8 opens the switches on the power plant and turns off the motor. Number 7 and 8 take turns as power plant operators. Those members of the section not on duty remain in the vicinity of the equipment they man in order to be able to go into action with a minimum of delay. When a target is detected, when an adjacent searchlight goes into action, or when orders are received from the platoon command post,
stand by.
The chief of section commands, stand by. The searchlight commander repeats the command, stand by. Number 8 starts the motor, and when the engine is operating smoothly, pulls the throttle to the wide open position. He then builds up the voltage to the proper no-load value of approximately 105 volts, closes the switches, and reports power plant ready to the searchlight commander. Numbers 5 and 6 stand by their posts at the control station. Numbers 1, 2, and 3 take their posts at the locator. Number 2 pushes the button, decreasing the hum of the data transmitters. When reports from advanced listening posts or platoon command post come in,
Target over OP2.
The chief of section directs the locator crew in the direction of the target's approach. Numbers 2 and 3 move the locator horns as directed by the chief of section so as to pick up the sound of the target. When the target has been definitely located, number 1 reports on target to the chief of section. Number 3 receives the estimated airspeed of the target from the chief of section and sets it into the acoustic corrector. The chief of section receives this speed from the battery commander or estimates it himself. When the locator crew reports on target, the command track is given by the chief of section and transmitted to the control station. The searchlight commander repeats the command and causes the elevation and azimuth controllers to direct the darkened searchlight with the distant electric control by continuously centering the 0 readers. When the target is being tracked by the locator listeners, the chief of section reports to the platoon command post, number 2 on target. Numbers 1 and 2 continue to track the target and center the sound by turning their hand wheels. Number 1, in a low voice, gives the chief of section such details as to the number and types of planes and their direction of flight as he may determine from time to time. Number 2 releases the button on the locator so that the data transmitters will operate at full voltage. Number 3 operates the acoustic corrector so as to keep the pantograph pointer centered on the cross lines in the mirror. Number 8 keeps the power plant operating on listening load, checking his instruments to see that the voltage and current remain at the proper value of approximately 105 volts and 12 amperes. Number 7 stands by at the searchlight, ready to strike the arc. He observes the instruments, noting that the voltage is at the proper value of approximately 105 volts. Numbers 5 and 6 continuously center the zero readers by turning the azimuth and elevation hand wheels on the control station in the proper direction. When the chief of section estimates that the most favorable moment for going into action has arrived, he reports to the platoon command post, "Number 2 is ready." When ordered to, or on his own initiative when no communication is available, the chief of section commands, "In action." Number 3 transmits the command. The searchlight commander repeats the command. Number 7 closes the main arc switch, thereby lighting the arc. He keeps watch on his instruments to see that the arc operates at 78 volts and 150 amperes. Number 8 continues to operate the power plant, checking to see that the voltage and current remain at the proper full load value of approximately 95 to 100 volts and 158 to 162 amperes. When the light goes into action, the searchlight commander causes number 5 and 6 to commence an immediate search for the target using their respective hand wheels. Numbers 5 and 6 search by moving the zero reader pointers first to one side, then to the other side of zero position. He calls data whenever he wishes numbers 5 and 6 to center the zero readers exactly. At the sound locator, the chief of section and number 4 look for the target and report any flicks to the searchlight commander. The searchlight commander observes the light beam through the binoculars, being especially watchful for flicks. When the target is flicked, the searchlight commander commands flick and takes over the personal operation of the control station from the controllers. Numbers 5 and 6 withdraw from the control station so as to avoid interference with the control of the beam. The searchlight commander follows the target until it is out of range or until directed otherwise. He carries the target in the side of the light beam closest to the gun battery firing. If the command "in action" is received before the sound locator is on target, he searches near the intersection of the other beams until the target is illuminated or the locator is on target. The command "out of action" is given by the chief of section or repeated by him if given from the platoon command post. Out of action. Number 3 transmits the command. The searchlight commander repeats the command. Number 7 extinguishes the light. At the first break in operation, if the positive carbon is half consumed, he recarbons the arc. With the main arc switch open, he places the recarboning switch in the recarboning position. He enters the light on the side away from the thermostat. He should be fully clothed and wear gloves to prevent contact with hot metallic parts. Using the recarboning key, the operator forces apart the jaws that grip the positive carbon. The carbon stub is withdrawn to the front. A new positive carbon with a crater already formed by a few minutes of operation is inserted from the front. The recarboning key is turned to its vertical position, allowing the jaws to grip the carbon. The gear teeth must mesh after the key is turned. When correctly placed, the positive carbon should project 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch beyond the positive head. In case a new carbon with no crater is used, it should project 13/16 of an inch. When inserted, a new negative carbon should project 1 inch beyond the negative head. To recarbon the negative head, the operator pulls down on the negative release lever, thereby releasing the old negative carbon, which is removed. A new negative carbon is then inserted to project the proper distance of 1 inch beyond the negative head. The negative release lever is released, allowing the negative mechanism to grip the carbon. When recarboning is completed, number 7 immediately puts the light back into action, covering the light with tarpaulin or some material if the tactical situation requires it. Numbers 5 and 6 continue to center the zero readers. The locator crew continue tracking the target until a new target is assigned or the command rest is given. The chief of section gives the command, change target over OP2, directing the locator crew to point the locator in the direction of the new target. He causes the personnel to search for and pick up the new target. The locator crew points the locator in the direction of the new target. They listen for a pickup and track the new target in the usual manner. The searchlight commander repeats the command. He causes the control station crew to center the zero reader pointers, thereby pointing the light at the new target. During search, pickup, and carry, they operate in the usual manner. When it's desired to prepare the searchlight battery for movement on the road, the battery commander gives the command,
March order. March order. March order. March order!
Number 4 disconnects the telephone and replaces it in the leather carrying case with which it is provided. He gathers up his equipment and proceeds to the sound locator and assists in disassembling that unit. Numbers 8 and 9 remove their trucks from the concealed position. Number 9 proceeds with truck number 1 to the sound locator position. Number 8 drives truck number 2 by the control station position in order to pick up the searchlight commander and number 6. At the control station, the open sight and the binoculars are removed from their position on the binocular mount. The binoculars are placed in their carrying case in the binocular mount box. The open sight is then placed in its position in the box. Number 5 disconnects the red cable plug from its receptacle on the control station. He replaces the cover on the receptacle. Truck number 2 arrives at the control station and picks up the searchlight commander and number 6. It then proceeds to the sound locator position. At the sound locator, number 3 removes the pantograph, which should be removed before the horns. The pantograph is then placed in its carrying case, care being taken not to damage the pantograph pointer. Numbers 1 and 2 remove their helmets and place them in the main carrying case. Assisted by numbers 4 and 9, they prepare to disassemble the sound locator. Number 3 removes the blue cable connection from the clamp underneath the platform. He then disconnects the blue cable plug from the receptacle on the end of the blue cable. He secures the cover on the plug of the blue cable connection and places the plug beneath the platform. The clamp is fastened to the platform by means of the wing nut provided. The cover is then placed on the end of the blue cable. Truck number 2 arrives at the sound locator position. Searchlight commander and number 6 dismount. The searchlight commander supervises the picking up of all cables. They proceed with the picking up of the blue cable. Number 3 reels in the blue cable as fed to him by number 6, who walks along in the rear of the truck as it is backed slowly from the sound locator to the searchlight. With the horns elevated to 90 degrees and the canvas covers replaced, numbers 1, 2, 4, and 9 disassemble the locator. The double horn is removed first. Utilizing the carrying straps provided on the canvas covers, extreme care must be taken in handling the horns to prevent damage to their delicate mechanisms. The single horn is then unbolted from the main assembly and placed near the double horn, ready for loading into the truck. The transportation bracket is clamped in place. The main assembly is unbolted from the pedestal. The covers are replaced over the sight and acoustic corrector. The main assembly is removed from the pedestal and the short cable connection recovered. The main assembly is then placed in its carrying case. The plug on the short cable connection is then placed in the clip provided. The main assembly is secured in the case by means of the clamps provided. The pedestal is unbolted from the platform and detached from it. Care must be taken in placing the cover on the case to prevent damage to the main assembly. When the cover is replaced on the case, the 5 parts of the sound locator are ready to be loaded into the truck. The case is loaded on the truck and placed in its proper position in the forward end of the truck. Care being taken to prevent striking the horns against any object, the double horn unit is loaded into the truck. The single horn is then loaded into the truck. The horns are secured in traveling position by the straps provided. The pedestal is loaded into the truck. The platform is loaded into the truck. However, the pedestal and platform are not clamped in place until after the control station is loaded. The members of the crew obtain their equipment and get into the truck. Truck number 1 is then driven to the control station position. Number 3 continues to reel in the blue cable as fed to him by number 6, as truck number 2 is backed from the sound locator to the searchlight. Truck number 1 arrives at the control station. Numbers 1, 2, 4, and 5 disassemble the control station. The binocular mount is removed from the control unit. It is replaced in its carrying case in the binocular mount box. The cover plate is replaced. The control unit is lifted from the tripod and placed in its traveling position in the forward end of the truck. The protective cap, which prevents damage to the turntable, is replaced on the tripod. The tripod is picked up, collapsed, and loaded on the truck. The binocular mount box is secured and loaded on the truck. Number 5 secures his automatic rifle and carries it with him. After they are loaded on the truck, the subdivisions of the control station are secured in place by means of the hold-down devices. The pedestal of the sound locator is now secured in traveling position by means of the clamps on its base. The platform of the sound locator is then clamped in place. Truck number 1 is then driven to the searchlight position. At the searchlight, number 7 begins preparing the light for traveling. He closes and secures in place the cover for the lamp control mechanism. Loosening the wing nuts which secure them in place, he disconnects the blue, red, and yellow cables. After the cables are disconnected, he replaces the covers on the receptacles and plugs to prevent any damage to them. Truck number 2 arrives from the sound locator and finishes picking up the blue cable. Number 3 finishes reeling in the blue cable, receives the end from number 6, and attaches it to the clip provided. This prevents damage to the cable while the truck is in motion. Truck number 2 then proceeds to the control station position, where they begin to reel in the red cable. Number 6 obtains the end of the red cable and hands it to number 3. Number 3 begins to reel in the red cable as fed to him by number 6, who walks along in the rear of the truck as it is backed from the control station to the searchlight. Truck number 1 arrives at the searchlight position, where numbers 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, and 9 prepare the light for traveling. The leveling jacks are run up. The light is traversed to the traveling position. The azimuth pin is replaced. The cover is then placed on the searchlight, and the searchlight is elevated to approximately 90 degrees. The transportation lock is pinned in place. Truck number 2 arrives at the searchlight and finishes picking up the red cable. Number 6 delivers the end of the red cable to the truck, and number 3 secures it in its traveling position. Number 3 prepares the reels for the yellow cables. Numbers 3 and 6 place the ends of the 2 yellow cables inside the receptacles on the reels. Assisted by number 6, number 3 reels in the 2 yellow cables as they are fed in by the searchlight commander. When the cover is securely fastened on the searchlight, the ramps are placed in position. The towing bar is attached to the searchlight, and the searchlight is run into position to be loaded. After the searchlight is aligned with the ramps and the block and tackle connected up, the light is drawn up into the body of the truck. Number 7 makes sure that the wheels run straight up the ramp. As the front turnbuckles on the light are being secured, the ramps are unfastened and placed in the truck. The light and ramps are then secured in position by means of the hold-down devices. Number 7 obtains the extended hand control and places it into its position in the truck. The chief of section is responsible that all hold-down devices in truck number 1 are properly fastened. Number 5 takes his post as automatic rifleman in the rear of the truck. The truck leaves to join truck number 2. At the power plant, number 10 disconnects the 2 yellow cables. The covers provided are clamped in position over the receptacles. The power plant is prepared for movement. He lowers and fastens the door to the switchboard. Then he closes the radiator door. Truck number 2 arrives at the power plant and finishes picking up the yellow cables. Numbers 3 and 6 secure the yellow cable plugs in the clips. The ramps are placed in position, being secured to the end of the truck by means of the locking pins. The block and tackle is removed from the truck in order to be attached to the power plant. Supervised by the searchlight commander, numbers 3, 4, 6, 8, and 10 move the power plant into position for loading. The block and tackle is attached to the power plant. The power plant is then drawn into the body of the truck. It is secured by means of the hold-down devices. The ramps are loaded in the truck and secured in place. The searchlight commander checks to see that all hold-down devices are fastened. Number 10 obtains the automatic rifle and assumes his post in the rear of the truck body. When all equipment has been secured in the traveling position, The searchlight commander directs the crew to get on the truck. The truck leaves to join truck number 1. When the 2 trucks arrive at their designated meeting place, the chief of section gives instructions as to the next move of the unit. He leads the trucks to their position on the road, ready to move on orders from the platoon commander.